Hello y'all and welcome back. We are diving into another part of my declutter and today we are doing it. We are doing the eyeshadow palettes. Oh my goodness, this is the one I've been dreading the most. I know it's going to be the longest and it's a lot, so I hope you guys are ready for it and I hope you guys don't mind how long and drawn out this video is going to be. But if you are an eyeshadow palette addict like myself, you probably won't mind it. You're probably going to enjoy it. So let's just go ahead, keep this intro very short and sweet, and let's dive in to my palettes, going through them. I go through all of my palettes, just dumped them on the floor, went through them one at a time, showed you guys them, and decided if I was going to keep them or declutter them. And I tried my best to be cutthroat, but also keep in mind that I am a YouTuber and I like to hold on to some palettes, even if I'm not particularly fond of it or attached to it. I do like to hold on to some palettes just to have for comparison reasons for videos, you know, popular palettes, but there are definitely palettes in my collection that I'm like, I'm never gonna need this to compare because I'm just not into the color story anymore. So I did feel like I got a lot done today. So I did feel like I got a lot accomplished when I did my declutter. So that's the only disclaimer I'm gonna throw out there. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, you guys can't even see everything. Like, I can't get my camera that far away. There's a lot here. I just don't have that much space in my closet, honestly, to fit everything. But I'm going to try to run through these palettes very briefly and just tell you guys, yes, I'm going to keep, or no, I'm going to declutter, because I feel like there's a decent number in my collection that I'm ready to part with. But yeah, I just got to start grabbing and going because I don't even know where to start. Okay, this is Oden's Eye Hummingbird palette. Definitely keeping this, not only for comparisons, but I really did also just love the color story. Okay, I changed the lighting a little bit. I felt like it was really washed out. But I really do like the color story. Great formula, great product, a gorgeous palette, keeping for sure. Okay, this is Tartland Bloom by Tarte Cosmetics. I can get rid of it. Yeah, I kept it for nostalgia and because I always thought it was beautiful packaging, but I mean, honestly, this is the type of packaging that I'm like loving, as we just went over. I think it's so beautiful. So while this is pretty, yes, I have a lot of other palettes in my collection that I now like to display, so I can get rid of it for the packaging. I'm never, ever going to reach back for this. Yeah, declutter. This is Oden's Eyes, the Cat's Breath palette. I really did enjoy this. I love the combo of colors here. Definitely keeping it. Definitely a palette I want to keep for comparisons as well. Another Oden's Eye Giant Wolves. These are newer palettes, so no surprise. I'm sure that I'm keeping it. This is a collab with Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner. Absolutely not going anywhere. This is the Makeup by Yolanda Pastel Jamrock Colored Washini Pastel Eyeshadow Palette. Not going anywhere as well. This is a fantastic pastel palette if you like a lot of it. Very intense pigmented color. Very beautiful when it comes to matte, so obviously not getting rid of. Alright, now we have Give Me Glow Christmas Morning. I am definitely holding on to this. I really like Give Me Glow as a brand. This is a unique color story, so yeah, it's a color story I definitely want to hold on to for comparison purposes in the future. Let's go ahead and tackle this one. It's the M Cosmetics Monet Jasper palette. I really do like it. Very pretty. I like the brand. This is the only palette I have from the brand, so definitely I want to hold on to it. This is Elf and J. Kissa. It's a rainbow palette. Yeah, I'm going to hold on to it for now. For comparison purposes, I don't have a ton of like just solid rainbow palettes. So yeah, I'm going to hold on to it for now. Milani, not many colorful eyeshadows from the drugstore, and I was really happy with this eyeshadow palette. It's the Gilded Jade, so gonna hold on to it. Definitely also a palette I like to hold on to for comparing to other green palettes that are in the indie world. I can compare it to a good one from the drugstore. This is my Adept and Heather Austin palette. Obviously not going anywhere. It's a super new palette. It's a collab with Heather Austin, obviously, and it's my one and only Adept palette, so definitely not leaving. ColourPop Fade to Hues, another all rainbow palette. Definitely going to hold on to it for comparison purposes, even though I'm not a fan of the shimmers or the glitters in this palette. Give Me Glow Dream Pastel palette, or Pastel Dreams palette. Obviously not going anywhere. Absolutely love this palette. It's my number one when it comes to pastels, so it's a good one. Another one from Gimme Glow, Extra Spicy. I like this red and orange theme palette. It was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy it. So definitely keeping it, not going anywhere. This is the Gimme Glow Sweet and Sticky palette. It is being discontinued. It's a great little neutral palette, and it's a neutral palette with colors that I do enjoy. And even though it's 6 pans, I felt like I got a lot of nice diversity from it. So holding on to this palette for now. This is the Cash Beauty Colored Trip palette. This one I really enjoyed the mattes. The shimmers weren't as great, and then the gel or water activated liners down here I didn't like either, but it's nice and it's the only one I have from the brand. I want to keep it for comparison purposes, etc. So keeping. Let's see, this is from Violet Voss. I think this is one of the only palettes I own from Violet Voss. I remember loving it when it first came out and I tried it. I thought it was so very nice. I haven't picked it up in forever at this point, but definitely a palette I can see myself going back to, or just, you know, wanting to use again, and also wanting to compare and just to have for reference when it comes to Violet Voss's eyeshadow formula. So going to keep. A newer palette that's not going anywhere, the Art Nouveau collection from Kai Lava Beauty. Definitely enjoyed this one. I reviewed it not too long ago on my YouTube channel, but I'm keeping it. The Wealthy Chick palette from Colored Rain, not going anywhere. Great little palette, great for comparison purposes when it comes to greens and whatnot, so staying. This is the Reasons palette by DJ's Unique Boutique. This is when I discovered the brand. Such a good palette. I don't think she's come with a palette since this, but it was so very good. It definitely put the brand on the map, and yeah, definitely not going anywhere. Glam Light's Dirty Martini. Keeping this mostly for comparison purposes. I'm not a fan of Glam Light shimmers, but the mattes in here are really nice. But it's a green palette. You guys know I like to have a nice selection, a nice collection for comparison purposes when it comes to green, so staying. Another green palette that I loved and is staying, the Pistachio palette by BH Cosmetics. Such a good palette. Really did enjoy this, staying. Let's go ahead and do this. Strobe Cosmetics Divinity. This was an interesting color story. I wasn't crazy about it, but I definitely want to hold on to it. It's a unique color story. It's from a brand, not Strobe, sorry, it's Shroud Cosmetics now. It's from a brand that a lot of people, you know, rave about and like, so I want to hold on to it for comparison purposes. The Genesis palette. This is from Midas and Drench Cosmetics. As far as I know, Drench Cosmetics is still in business, but Midas did close down. And this was a very nice, like, neutral palette, but with a colorful pop. Definitely want to hold on to it just to have for comparison purposes, even if, you know, even though Midas isn't available, Drench Cosmetics is. And like I said, this was a neutral palette I thought was still exciting and a lot of fun, and I really did enjoy it. Also not going anywhere, this is the Perception palette. This was a collab with the Basic Bee and Midas Cosmetics. I'm keeping it, you know, mostly just because I really did enjoy this palette. Probably one of my top favorites for Midas. It's a great array of colors. It was a fun collab. It's a pretty palette packaging. They did a great job with this. Still super sad that Midas closed down. I'm sure this is obvious, but LA Girl Main Stage is not going anywhere. This was like a highlight from 2021. Blew my socks off. Absolutely love the color story, the quality, everything about it. Staying. Same for the Ace Beauté Vintage or Tropical Vibes palette. This is one of my favorite grungy green palettes. It was so fun, so good. Definitely staying. Another rainbow palette is from September Rose Cosmetics. It's a Slush palette, a great palette to have. I remember enjoying this so much. Was this 2019 or 2021? I can't remember, but definitely a palette that's staying and not going anywhere. Another great palette is The Wilderness by Beauty Bay. Obviously not going anywhere. Such a good palette from last year, and they tried bringing out the Earthly palettes. I just got those. I really need to do some comparisons of them. I just haven't had the time yet, but definitely staying. Nomad Fire and Ice palette. I love the way they did this palette with it being so icy on the outside and then fire on the inside. Absolutely love it. Color story is pretty as well. Definitely a palette I keep for comparison purposes. It's a palette that I like. The color story is really fun. It's quality that I like, so staying. As is this one, which is the Cartagena Magica palette. This was a lot of fun. I would definitely wish there was more depth in this palette, but it's still a pretty palette and, you know, a great one to have for like the spring, summer and whatnot. So definitely keeping. Kaleidos Cosmetics and the Club Nebula. This was a collab with Angelica Nyquist. Definitely going to keep this one as well. It's a fun color story, and especially with collabs, I like to keep them for comparing it to future palettes that are launched if anyone asks me how similar they are. So this one is staying. Another one that's obviously not going anywhere, Juvia's Place, the Tribe palette. My top number one when it comes to Juvia's Place palettes. Absolutely love this palette. Not going anywhere. Okay, here's a palette that we can actually get rid of. I feel like I haven't got rid of any palettes, but this is the Profusion Mixed Metals Peach palette. I kept it for the longest time because I really did enjoy this formula, and it was one of the few palettes I had from Profusion that I enjoyed, so I kept it around. But I'm going to talk about another palette soon. I like it so much more, and it's a color story. I enjoy it, so it's time to get rid of this one. This is Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves. I am pretty much ready to get rid of this. I'm not into mauves. I rarely ever was. I just kind of got it because I really did enjoy this formula and the, you know, the 5-pan palette aspect. So I think I got it on sale and got it for a, like more of a collector's item. But I'm kind of outgrown it. I feel like I can get rid of it and not really miss it. And I'm not someone who's crazy into mauves, so I don't feel like I need to keep it around for comparison purposes when it comes to mauves. So I'm decluttering it. This is the Impressionism from Muse Beauty, the first palette that, oh not Muse, sorry, Kyla. The first palette that Kyla launched, and it was the one that put their name on the map, seriously, because everyone was so blown away, and it's a really good palette, definitely holding on to it. Okay, let's talk about these. I have two right here, but this is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons and the Sweet Peach palette. These were so raved about back in the day, and I've held on to them for nostalgia, and in my mind I was like, for comparison purposes. But I really don't think I'm ever going to, like, what am I going to compare that to? I'm not going to pick up a palette that is comparable to these, so it's just not my, you know, not what I am into when it comes to palettes, so there's no point in me holding on to them. And I feel like I've definitely kind of outgrown the just collecting because it's makeup and it's pretty and was super popular at one time. The Sweet Peach still smells very faintly of peach, but yeah, I think I can get rid of this without crying too hard, so I'm going to declutter this out of my collection. This is the Glam Light Ice Cream Dreams palette. I'm almost ready to get rid of this, but I'm going to hold on to it because I want to hold on to it for, you know, to have for comparison purposes, really. I wasn't really blown away with this one. It was definitely, you know, not a favorite, but like I said, I would like to keep it for comparison purposes. Glam Light's a really popular brand, so I like to have it. If anyone were to ever ask me, I have it handy to compare since I already bought it. Might as well keep it. This is the Made by Mitchell Feet on the Ground palette. This is a fun palette. Definitely a palette I keep for comparison purposes. And yeah, it's the one and only palette I have from Made by Mitchell. Okay, let's just talk about it. I've been avoiding it. Circo Loco from Natasha Denona. I am going to keep it for now. I keep saying that I should just get rid of it. I'm just going to declutter it next time I get the chance. But sitting here, I feel like I still want to hold on to it, especially as we get into this next year or two. I feel like some brands might start to not copy it, but definitely be inspired by it. And so for that reason, I'd want to hold on to it to have it for comparison purposes. And like I said, I already spent the money on it, so might as well keep it. So gonna be keeping this mainly for comparison purposes. And I mean, not that it's a bad palette, it's just, it's so expensive. Alright, here's a little Smashbox palette. This is in this shade. It's called the Bold Eyeshadow palette. I thought I had a different name, but it's basically a little rainbow palette from Smashbox Cosmetics. I haven't used this in eons, but I really should pull it out and actually use it because, like I said, I don't have many rainbow palettes, so I'm gonna hold on to it for now. Endangered Cosmetics. This is the Sea Turtle palette. A really fun palette, definitely newer to my collection, a newer brand. Want to hold on to it definitely for comparison purposes and just because I really did enjoy it. Triumph of Venice from Kyla Beauty. Gonna hold on to it. I enjoyed this color story and like the brand, and it'll be a good palette for comparisons and whatnot down the road, so holding on to it. Too Faced Gingerbread Spice. Oh, it did not make the trip very well. It got a big old crack in it, but this I'm going to declutter. Kind of like I was talking with the previous ones. I'm not really super into this color story. There's a lot of shimmers that I don't know. I'm not into these type of shimmers, so I'm going to declutter it. This is the Nomad Snow Whistler Lodge, the most recent palette that Nomad Cosmetics launched. Definitely not getting rid of it. It's a really fun palette. I love all the deep tones in here, the blue and the green and whatnot. This was a lot of fun and has a lot of memories now because I was super nauseous and sick when this launched, so it was a struggle to get that video up, so holding on to it. Ooh, this is the Nomad by Juvia's Place. I remember not being crazy about it, but I do like the color story. I know Juvia's Place is popular as a brand. A lot of people like them, so this is a palette I'm going to hold on for comparison purposes mostly. Oh, this is a good one. Safari Rain by Colored Rain. This is when Colored Rain really just like hit the mark for me. I love this palette so very much. Had such a fun time with it. It was limited edition, but then they brought it back and I was so happy. I think it's since been discontinued again, but it's a great palette. Great grungy palette. So pretty. Yeah, holding on to this for sure. Okay, let's do the Creepy Cute by Strobe or Shroud Cosmetics. Definitely another palette I'm going to hold on to. It's like pastel, but with some depth in it. It was a lot of fun, and I can't believe I forgot to include this in my pastel palettes for spring, because this would have been a good one to put in there. I have no idea why I blanked, but I did. Here's something I can get rid of. This is the Makeup Maniac Cosmetics Green Goddess palette. I just wasn't really wowed by this palette, and I can't even tell you why. I am someone who likes greens, but this, anytime I opened it, I was just kind of like, eh. I got one really pretty green look, and then I really never kind of, you know, wanted to do much else with it, so that right there tells you a lot. And I don't feel like I need it for, do I need to keep it just to compare to other palettes because it's the only one I have by Makeup Maniac Cosmetics. So I feel like I should hold on to it for that reason, but that's the only reason I'd be holding on to it. I'll hold on to it for a little bit longer because I haven't had it in my collection too long, and like I said, I like to have current brands that I'm interested in and that are, you know, launching stuff that I like and color stories that I like to hold on to it for comparison purposes. So this one qualifies. I'm going to keep it. All right, let's talk about these. I don't know where the other ones are, but this is 2 of the Lorac Cosmetics. This is the Pro 1 and Pro 2. Yeah, this is another kind of like the Too Faced ones. I'm really not into this color story anymore, so like, why do I hold on to these? And I think I'm ready. I'll probably pass them along to my sisters, or if they're too old, I will just declutter them and call them done. But there's no reason for me to keep them for comparison purposes. I'm not gonna ever use them, so it is time. I can't believe I'm finally doing this, but I'm going to declutter these. Oh, the Smoky Glow, Midas Cosmetics. This was a fun palette for Valentine's Day. Yeah, collab with Smoky Glow, definitely holding on to it for comparison purposes. Such a fun palette, and some of these shades were so very special. They were so, like, was it Basic that always blew my socks off, or maybe it was Nutty? Oh no, yeah, it's Nutty. Sorry, Basic is this. Nutty. Nutty is such a special shadow, like, blinding, so beautiful. Okay, this is Clarity Cosmetics Somewhere Amazing. I do not like this palette, but I hold on to it because it's the one and only palette I have from Clarity Cosmetics, so I'm going to hold on to it. And also it's a good comparison palette when it comes to pastel palettes because I don't have too many of them. But it's a palette that I keep to say, like, no, not this one, because the mattes were bad and the shimmers were just so messy and not the kind I like to mess with. So this I'm only keeping for referencing, kind of for comparison purposes only. Okay, here's the Sassy Siennas by Dose. I feel like this is a palette I can also get rid of. I'm just really not into this. I can't remember the last time but I pulled for it, and I don't think I've ever had to reach for this for a comparison type video. I was really into it back in the day, especially this shade was nice and blinding. Still is nice and bright, but I don't know. This just doesn't excite me, so I think I'm ready to say goodbye. I'm going to declutter it. Oh, y'all remember this? This is the NYX Grind palette. Oh, I would love this so much. It was limited edition. It was like here and gone super fast. I was so happy to get my hands on it. This is in the early days of my YouTube channel too. I'm going to hold on to it for comparison purposes. This was my first Kaleidos palette when they originally launched. Such a good palette. I love it for comparisons. It was a great palette in general. Really nice. Definitely not getting rid of. All right, next up is going to be the Nomad, what is this called? Shanghai palette. This palette is discontinued, not available anymore, but I definitely want to hold on to it for comparison purposes, especially when it comes to these special shadows from Nomad Cosmetics. I just like to be able to reference them as they launch new palettes to see if the formula is like these, because I really enjoyed the shimmer formula in this palette. It was so very sparkly and gorgeous and easy to work with. So, holding on for comparison purposes. Okay, this is the Tropical Paradise palette by Flawless Cosmetics. Like I said, the brand shut down. It was a nice rainbow palette. Didn't blow my socks off, but it was nice. Should I hold on to it? The brand isn't available any longer, so I feel like I should just declutter and move on. But I did review it. I did, you know, like I said, I reviewed it. I tried it. It's a rainbow palette. Maybe I should do a rainbow palette, ranking my rainbow palettes. I'll probably do that. So I'm going to hold on to it for now. Oh, this little guy. I can definitely declutter it. I went through, like, I panned a full one of these before. That's how much I love this palette. Or this little quad is from Physicians Formula and Classic Canyons. Such a good palette. I was so into, even back then I was into the all matte eyeshadow looks, and this was one, this was like my go-to. I used one of these in my crease, this outer corner, this all over the lid. It was my go-to. But, I mean, I was just holding on to this for nostalgia. Honestly, that's literally the only reason. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. Juicy Olive by Gimme Glow. Not going anywhere. Love this palette. Love the color story. Yeah, definitely staying. Ooh, this is by Blush Tribe, the Hasina 2. I've held on to it for like comparison purposes and stuff because Blush Tribe is no longer around. But have I ever really used this to compare? I don't think so, because I've never really seen like a blue, purple, green type of color story. But who knows? Maybe it will come out someday. I don't know. How old is this? Probably, I think it was when Gideon was a baby. And he's 4 now. So I feel like I can get rid of this. I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. Real Cocoa palette from Muse or Kyla Beauty. Going to hold on to it mainly for comparison purposes. I wasn't crazy about this because the shimmers, a lot of the shimmers were just too neutral for me. But it's a nice for like down here. I did enjoy it. And it's from a brand that I really do enjoy and I like to keep for comparison reasons. Lime Crime Venus 2. One of the few palettes I have from Lime Crime. I really did enjoy this color story. It was a lot of fun. Definitely keeping it. Yeah. gotta hold on to it. Lethal is Dead, obviously not going anywhere. It's a collab with Teresa is Dead and Lethal Cosmetics. Gonna keep it. I really like the brand and the formula that they produce when it comes to the mattes, so holding on to it for comparison purposes. Okay, this is one I'm not really sure. This is the Lorac Tale as Old as Time. I've kept it for as old as time. I've kept it for so long because of the color story, but I'm definitely over the color story, and I feel like the book, it's just been sitting on my bookshelf. I really don't display it in any way, so I think I'm going to get rid of this and declutter it. This is the Oden Zion Angelica Gila palette. I'm going to keep it. Newer palette, great for comparison purposes, and it's a great collab palette. I Heart Revolution's Tasty Avocado, one of my favorite. One of the only palettes I've tried from I Heart Revolution that I actually really do like, so definitely holding on to this. What's Up Beauty Desert Monsoon palette. Oh, it kind of had a rough ride. That's so sad, but holding on to this for sure. Great palette for comparisons. Their shimmers in this palette was absolutely like stunning. So pretty. So yeah, great one to have. I am trying to go fast, y'all, but I feel like I'm not even halfway there. Okay, this is from Lancome. This was a palette I really did enjoy, and I've kept it for so long because it was a palette from Lancome that I really liked. However, again, I'm not into these colors, so I don't foresee me needing it for comparison purposes. So I feel like it's just time to say goodbye. I'm going to declutter it. All right, here's another Lorac. This is the Lorac Pro 3, or no, I think this was the 4. I can't even remember. Olivia, I think, got into this when she was a baby. Again, I can't even remember, but I'm not going to use this color story. Going to declutter. This is from Glam Shop. This is the, I don't know, you guys can read it right there, but it's basically a yellow lemon palette. Really did enjoy it. Don't have many palettes from Glam Shop, so definitely holding on to it. The only thing I wish is that there was more depth in this palette. That was the only thing it was missing for me. Another palette I'm not getting rid of. No surprise there, I'm sure, but the Pure and Raw Beauty Christie palette, holding on to this. This was a gift from a subscriber, so very sweet. And it's a collab palette, great little rainbow palette on this side, so holding on. You know, this is from Lunar Beauty. It's a Eternal Eclipse palette. I feel like I should keep it because it's the only palette I own from Lunar Beauty, but again, when I keep a palette, I want to either, keep it because I'm going to use it or keep it because I want it for comparison purposes. I really don't foresee myself reusing this palette again just because I didn't enjoy the color story. It was a little too neutral for me. And then comparison purposes, I feel like I'm not going to need to compare this to any palettes because it's just not a color story I'm super into. So it's brand new to my collection, but I think I'm going to declutter this. Profusion Desert Sage palette, holding on to for sure. This is the palette I was saying that was the reason I could declutter the peach palette. This is a newer launch and it's got lots of colors to it. It was a lot of fun, so holding on to, keeping. All right, let's do Anastasia Beverly Hills. Oh my goodness. Let's do it. Okay. Subculture, not going anywhere. It's a color story I like. It's a very infamous type of palette, so I like to keep it for comparison purposes. Not going anywhere. This is where it gets a little bit trickier. Okay, so this is the Norvina and the Modern Renaissance. I feel like Modern Renaissance I should keep just because it was so very popular, so good for comparison purposes. But again, it's a color story I feel like I'm not going to gravitate towards, so what's the point of keeping it? And then this purple palette I bought just because I had the other two. And I was like, okay, gotta buy it to review, but I'm definitely not into these tones in this palette. I barely was back then, definitely am not any longer. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and declutter both of these. And then this is the Riviera palette. This one I was actually kind of into, but it's got some pops of colors overall, kind of full of mostly neutrals. So should I keep it? No, I'm not going to keep it. I'm just not that into the color story. Don't feel like it's unique enough or something worthy enough for me to keep for comparison purposes even. So I'm going to declutter it. Oh, this is the Gimme Glow singles when it comes to the pastels that I have. I have the palette, and then I bought these pastels the previous year. I think it was a Pretty and Pastel bundle. I forget what it's called. But anyway, these were the singles, and then it was such a hit the following year it came out in the palette. So I really don't need to hold on to this. So I think it's time to say goodbye. I am going to go ahead and declutter the singles. This one's hard. Let's go ahead and talk about it. This is the Makeup Revolution, the Emily Edit the Wands palette. This is a collab with Emily Noel. I'm going to keep it because I really do enjoy the collab. It's a good, it's a good solid collab. It's very neutral, but I don't have that many palettes from Makeup Revolution. I did enjoy it. I like Emily as a YouTuber, so I feel like I could kind of probably get rid of it, but I'm not quite ready to say goodbye, so holding on to it. This is the Ruby May Pop Zombie palette. This was a fun color story. I'm going to hold on to it because I'd love to see if I could find, something that comes out a dupe to this palette because I wasn't crazy about the art, But it was just such a fun color story, and the quality was nice too, so holding on to it. Oh, a rainbow palette. This is Makeup Revolution. It's the Forever Flawless palette. This was a fun palette. The shimmers and the glitters were no good, but the mattes were actually really nice. I did enjoy it, and it's a pretty cover, so definitely going to keep it for comparison purposes, and to have in my collection, I wouldn't mind creating more looks with it. This is the Nomad. This is the first one I tried, I think, from Nomad Lit Como palette. I got it in, maybe not the first one. Anyway, I got it in some subscription box, but I'm going to hold on to it just for comparison purposes and whatnot. Definitely wish this was something different just because these are so fun and colorful, but this was kind of boring for me. But regardless, keeping. Okay, this palette I'm only keeping for the beauty of the palette and then for comparison purposes. But this is from Storybook Cosmetics, the Van Gogh palette, or the Starry Night palette. Definitely a palette that quality-wise wasn't the best, but it was a fun color story, and I mean, it's just pretty cover. I paid a lot of money for it, so might as well keep it, so gonna hold on to it. This is Actias Luna's palette. This was a really nice color story. I had a lot of fun with it. This is the first from the brand, if I remember correctly. So definitely want to hold on to it, see what else the brand comes out with. But this color story was a lot of fun, and these two shimmers were so, so nice. Oh, My's Cosmetics Volume 2, oh no, Artistry Volume 2 palette. Holding on to it for comparison purposes for sure. Such a fun little palette. This is the Green Tea Macchiato palette, and I think there was also another one from them I'll come across, I'm sure. This one I'm going to go ahead and declutter. I don't feel like I need something this small for comparison purposes, just because a lot of palettes would probably qualify as, you know, dupes to this. And, you know, it's a smaller quad. I don't reach for it. The brand is no longer in business, so it's no longer available. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter this. As much as I did enjoy it, I'm never going to reach for it. Which one's this? This is the Blaze eyeshadow. This was like the dupe for the Renaissance. And again, I kept the Renaissance, Modern Renaissance from ABH, and I compared it with this one because I was into the color story at the time. But again, I'm not into it, so gonna declutter. Oh, this is from Rimmel London Jules Rock Edition. This one I got because I was like, ooh, this looks like the Melt Gemini down here. But I'm never gonna reach for it again. It's a palette I don't think to reach for comparison purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter. Oh, here's the other little quad from My Cosmetics, the Latte palette. Again, another palette I absolutely love, but I just feel like I'm not going to need it for comparison purposes, and since the brand is no longer available, you can't buy it, I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. Let's go ahead and talk about the Melt Gemini, a palette that's not going anywhere. They just kind of redid the outer packaging, which was super pretty, but I have the original, so holding on to it. Great palette to have for comparison purposes. I actually see the floor of here. Yay, we're making progress. All right, let's talk about these DD Signatures Fruit Skewer palettes. That's what they were. 4 of them, all in a collection. These palettes are definitely ones that I want to hold on to for comparison purposes because this brand is no longer available. But these color stories were, for the most part, just so very unique and fun. I love the quality of the shadows. I created so many fun looks with this palette. Absolutely loved them. Yeah, super sad that they're no longer in business. Definitely holding on to them. Pretty packaging, pretty color stories, unique color stories, and definitely hope I'm able to use these palettes for comparison purposes later on in the future. Endanger Cosmetics, this was the first palette they launched, the Red Panda palette. A bit of a neutral palette, but a neutral palette that I don't mind and I did enjoy, so holding on to. This is the Juvia's Place The Warrior 3 palette, another great palette, great for comparisons. I had so much fun with this, so holding on to for sure. All right, let's talk about this little guy, e.l.f. a little, what is it, hot jalapeno. I love having this for comparison purposes. It's a great little green palette. I enjoyed the color story. The quality was nice, so definitely keeping. All right, here's the other Too Faced palettes. I got the Chocolate Bar, Chocolate Bar Semi-Sweet, and then over here is the Chocolate Gold palette. So let's open them and just see. They're quite bland. I've kept them for so long just for nostalgia and collector's reasons, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Declutter these two. I'm going to keep this one because this is one that actually, like, while it's very neutral, the shimmers are actually really nice. It still smells like chocolate, which is amazing, and yeah, I do really still like the outer packaging. So holding on to these two, decluttering these two. All right, let's talk about these. This is the Maybe Cosmetics Take Me to Santorini, to Hong Kong, to Tokyo, and to Istanbul. I feel like this brand hasn't launched anything in so very long, and I'm so very sad about it. I hope they, continue to release stuff. I don't know what's up. I don't think they shut down, but I honestly don't know. This was a fun brand, especially at the time. I felt like the color stories were very unique and fun and different. Do I need to hold on to these? I'll hold on to Tokyo, and this is a fun orange and blue for sure, as is, what is this? Hong Kong. I'll hold on to these just because they're color stories I like, but I feel like this I can declutter. Istanbul. I kept it because it was the newer of them that they launched, but color story I'm just not into, so I'll keep these 3 for now. You know, I can probably also get rid of Hong Kong because that was a little bit... Oh, the purple, red, and green shimmers. They're fun and different. I don't know. I'm going to get rid of these 2. Hong Kong and Istanbul are decluttering, and I'm going to keep Santorini and Tokyo. Playing in Makeup by Yolando. Great product. This is the Friends palette. Absolutely love it. Great palette for comparison purposes. Definitely staying. This is also going to be staying. This is the Pumpkin Spice Quad from DD Signature. Such a fun little palette. Will I, need it that realistically for comparison purposes? Maybe, but I did really enjoy the palette. I enjoyed the color story, so holding on to it. This little guy can go. This is the Zoeva Matte Voyager. I got this to try the brand. It's such a tiny little palette. Yeah, I wasn't super impressed. I wasn't super into the color story. I can declutter this. All right, let's talk about these little guys here. I think I have all 4 of them. This is when I was introduced to the brand. I think this was the first time I tried them. But anyway, we've got avocado, blueberry, passion fruit, and peach. Definitely going to get rid of the peach just because the color story, isn't super me. What else? I'm going to keep the blueberry, was my favorite. The green avocado for sure. And then I'll go ahead and keep this one as well. The passion fruit, this was fun. I mean, it's just pretty colors and whatnot. So decluttering peach, keeping the other 3. Let's see. Let's also do these. Do I have all of them? Where are the others? Oh, over here. So, oh no. Oh, I forgot. This is the DD Signature Coconut Palette. I forgot she came out with a neutral one. Yeah, this is easy. I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. All right, I think this was it for the Juvia's Place quads that I got. This is the Army, Mints, Grays, and Honey. Gonna keep the Army. I like it for comparison reasons. I'm gonna keep this one just because it's a little bit more unique to my collection. I feel like I'm also going to keep the grays because I don't have many gray palettes and I want to start. I got a palette from Playing in Makeup by Yolanda that I can use to try grays and I just want to compare them. And then this one, Honey, I'm going to declutter this one. This one isn't super unique and I just don't foresee needing it to compare to other palettes. So decluttering 1, keeping 3. Oh, remember this palette? I kept this for the nostalgia. Literally the only reason. This is like the OG too. This is the one I used. I remember using this right after marriage. I created a pretty look with these 2. Yeah, I can probably let go of it. Does it even still... Well, it still transfers. You can tell I didn't use this dark one very often. You can still clearly see the writing, but still nice quality. I'm just never going to use it, so I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. Ooh, the Dose Cutting Edge. Yeah, keeping this one for sure. Great palette for comparisons. I love that they had added shimmers to these 5-pan palettes, and the mattes in here were so good. So, yes, keeping. Natasha Denona. I got this in a BoxyCharm, I think. This is the Peak palette. I kept it because it was like the only Natasha Denona I owned, but at this point I have the Circle logo, so I can declutter this now. Ooh, Flower Beauty Suns Blazing. I did really enjoy this, but it's been so long since I've tried it. Oh, it's still really nice. Yeah, I'm going to hold on to it for now, for comparison purposes mainly. Okay, this is Kat Von D. I bought it off of Poshmark. What is it called? The Ladybird? I bought this off of Poshmark back when I was like, ooh, collector, it's a pretty packaging. But at this point, like, the inside is super, super neutral. I've never used it because it was old when I got it. I just got it for the packaging. But I feel like I'm over the palette packaging at this point. And like I said, I have so many newer palettes that I actually use that have beautiful packaging for display that I'm going to declutter this. Before I moved, it was just tucked back in a drawer in my makeup collection and never really saw the light of day. So, decluttering. Another Wet n Wild. This was a dupe for the Modern Renaissance. I'm just not into the color story. I can declutter. Midas Cosmetics. They came out with the volume 1 and 2. This is the volume 1 palette. It was my favorite out of the 2 because it was the darker one, I believe. I think. If I'm remembering correctly. This one looks like the darker one. So I did remember enjoying this. Do I want to hold on to it? Yeah, I'm doing that little rainbow palette video apparently. So I'm going to hold on to it for then. But, yeah, I might declutter it after that. I don't know. Alright, this is the Honey Honey from ColourPop. I never really love it, but I keep it for comparison purposes because I do have a couple yellow themed palettes, so I like to have it for that reason. Speaking of yellow themed, I also have this one from Midas. I've kept it because it was my favorite all yellow monochromatic palette, but they are out of business. But I'm going to hold on to it for a little while just for comparison reasons. So both of these are keeping. Obviously not going anywhere. It's Freaking Bats from Shroud and Batty Bean. Such a good color story. Such a good formula. Not going anywhere. Let's cover these really briefly. This is Menagerie's Serenity palette. This is Menagerie's Whale Song. This is Menagerie Feral. This is Menagerie Indigo Ink. This is Menagerie Killer Per. And last up is the Menagerie Pastel Pup. None of these are going anywhere because I love the palette packaging, I love the color stories, I love the brand, and I like to keep them for comparison purposes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not going anywhere. Ooh, this is K-Love Van Gogh when they were Musée Beauty. One of my favorite color stories that they've launched. It was such a fun color story. Really did enjoy it. Definitely keeping. Oh, Kaleidos Flower Punk, another unique color story and a bit newer. Definitely keeping. This one's a little bit tricky. This is the KVD Metal Matte Palette. I kept it because I think I got it when it originally launched, and it was like such, you guys know the hype back then for this palette. It was so big, and I thought it was such a colorful palette too. I mean, look at it. I thought this was so colorful, and now I look at it, I'm like, there's a blue and then a bunch of muted colors. But I mean, I feel like I can get rid of it. I don't think I'll need it for comparison purposes either. I'm just really not into it. So, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna declutter. Nomad America's Parks palettes. Oh, such a good palette from last year. Such a good, like, neutral type of yet still colorful type of palette. So good, keeping. This is Fenty Beauty's Money. I think it's, yeah, the Money palette, number 10. I'm gonna keep it for comparison purposes, but that's pretty much it. Cause I mean, it was nice, but there were too many shimmers for me. This is the Ofra Signature Palette Beachside. I did really enjoy this. This was a fun little palette. I like the shimmer in the middle. Should I keep it? I'll keep it for now. Good little palette to have. That Beauty, the Chill Out palette. This is a very blue monochromatic palette with tons of pressed glitters in it. Do I need to hold on to it? Not really, but I don't have many blue palettes, so I'm going to keep it for now. BK Beauty, True Beauty. I'm going to declutter this. I was really appreciative to get sent this in PR, but it's not my color story at all, so I'm sorry, but there's just no reason for me to hold on to it. So I will probably end up, passing this along to one of my sisters or my mom, who will get a lot of great use out of it. It's a really nice, like, formula, but just color story isn't for me. Life's a Draft from Samantha March. Holding on to this for Samantha March, obviously. It was a great little palette, and especially if you're into mauves and purpley tones, very pretty. Oh, obviously not going anywhere. Blush Tribe Paulina palette, another great collab palette, great palette to have. It was just a fantastic color story. I love it, and it's a great palette to have for comparison purposes, and also it'll be the one palette I keep from Blush Tribe, so that works too. Poppy Cosmetics Neon Drip. The one palette I still have from Poppy Cosmetics. Great little neon palette. I really did enjoy the shimmers and mattes, so not going anywhere, keeping. This is from Terra Moon's the Albaria palette, the only palette I have from them. This was a fun color story, definitely unique, a great palette to have for comparison purposes. Oh, this is the Yvette Beauty Autumn palette. This is how Yvette got on my radar. Such a great all matte, very autumn color story. Colors are so bright and pigmented. Absolutely love it. Great palette. Definitely keeping. Just a cute little cover too. Really did like it. Ruby May Peppermint Mocha palette, a great little like Christmassy type of palette. Has such rich colors, great shimmers. I'm gonna hold on to it for sure. ColourPop Yes Please palette. This is one I feel like I can get rid of. I feel like I don't really need it for comparison purposes, and I'm kind of over the color story. Now I wonder how similar this is. No comparisons. The Ace Beauté Falling For You is like a really pigmented, like distant cousin of the Yes Please. So yeah, I'm going to declutter this, going to keep this because this is more my speed these days, so I just don't foresee myself getting a palette like this ColourPop one to need it for comparison purposes, so keeping, decluttering. Oh, here's a ColourPop palette I am going to keep at Foresight from Robbie Christie. I love the saturation and I love these tones, so definitely keeping. Ace Beauté Vintage Dawn. I love this color story. It was so very fun. This is the older formula, so it probably has gotten a lot better, but it's still a color story I like, so I like to hold on to it for comparison purposes. But yeah, such a rich color story. So beautiful. Glaminatrix U Beauty palette. The one and only palette I have from Glaminatrix Cosmetics. And the shimmers in here are really pretty, very special. Definitely not going anywhere. Nomad Cosmetics. This is their most recent palette. The Paradise Islands, I think it's called. Yeah, Paradise Islands palette. Such a fun color story. So beautiful. Absolutely love it. Obviously not going anywhere. Alamar Cosmetics. This is the only palette I have from Alamar Cosmetics, so I'm going to hold on to it. I remember enjoying it. It's a color story I can kind of see myself, needing it for comparison purposes, and like I said, it's the only palette I have from Alamar, so holding on to it. Oh, this is the Red Dragon. I feel like I could probably get rid of this. Like, I just feel like I'm not, will I? I just held on to the Alamar, but I have so many of the Oden's Eye formulas. I'm kind of sitting here thinking like I could probably get rid of it, but I'm going to hold on to it for now. Celestial Thunder from Dominique Cosmetics. Holding on to it. It's a cute little color story, more unique and great for comparison purposes. This is the only palette I have from Metamorphosis, a Lady Nave palette. This was a nice little palette. I'm going to hold on to it. It's a great palette to have for comparison purposes and just to kind of compare as a brand, grows and whatnot. So holding on to it. Bright Addiction palette from Ofra Cosmetics. Let's open this up. This is a rainbow palette, a very expensive rainbow palette, honestly. I'm going to hold on to it. I guess I've talked myself into doing a rainbow palette ranking video, so I'll use it for that, and we'll see where it lands, and maybe I'll declutter it after that video. Oden's Erd palette. I don't know. I think I'm going to keep this. I'll keep it for comparison purposes. I have so many that I really love and enjoy from Oden's Eye that it kind of, looking at this, I'm like, I could get rid of it. I wasn't crazy about these in the middle because they were super flaky and just difficult to use. But, I mean, all the other ones I enjoyed, but I'm going to hold on to it for now. Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. I never use this for comparison purposes, even though I feel like, well, I mean, there's only one green, so I was like, I feel like I've done a lot of green kind of comparison palettes. I feel like I should hold on to this for, I don't know, for how infamous this palette was. I don't know. Should I hold on to this? Nah. Why am I holding on to it? I have never reached for it. I feel like in the last couple of years to compare it to anything, so I'm going to declutter. Oh, this was Midas Cosmetics' first palette, the La Dolce Vita palette. This is before they even put like a brand name on their palettes. This was really early on, the very first palette I tried for them. Such a good palette. It's a good rainbow palette. This is how they kind of got on my radar. I remember buying this on launch day, but the brand's not around anymore. This palette definitely isn't around anymore, so I don't really think I need to hold on to it for that rainbow palette video because you can't get it anymore. This is back before Gideon was born, I think, 4 years ago. I'm going to declutter it. Okay, LA Girl Festy Bestie. I'm going to get rid of this. I was not impressed with the quality of this, and the color story, I don't know, it isn't super unique. There's nothing in me that really wants to keep this, so might as well get rid of it. This is from, what brand was this? GLF Cosmetics. They sent me a pressed glitter palette, and I was like, oh great, like I have all the pressed glitters I could ever need in one palette, and that's the only reason I've kept it. I've rarely ever used it, but if I ever got into wearing more pressed glitters, I guess I would be set. I'll keep it. Half Cake Makeup. I wasn't super crazy about this palette. I don't know, and I also don't feel like I need to keep it for comparison purposes. I don't know, I'm just not super into it, so I'm going to go ahead and declutter this. Another palette I think I can declutter, the Honor palette from Kyla Beauty. It was a pretty little palette, but it's very like mauve and neutral with just a blue and green pop. So not really my speed. I feel like I can get rid of it without kind of being afraid I'll need it for comparison purposes. Let's hope I don't regret that. So decluttering. Y'all, I'm trying my best to get through this quickly, but it's still so very long. Oh my goodness. Let's do these. All right, so this is Orange and Glad by ColourPop, and this is Just My Luck. They're green and orange monochromatic theme palettes. These are palettes that I definitely want to hold on for comparison purposes. So keeping both. This is the Mandalorian palette. I feel like I could get rid of this and not miss it. However, I forget what it was recently that someone was like, oh, I'd like to see it compared to that. So I did use it, so I'm going to hold on to it for a little bit longer. Then avoiding this because I really don't know. This is the Lorac Cosmetics and Pirates of the Caribbean collab. I feel like I can definitely get rid of it for the inside. However, I really do like Pirates of the Caribbean, and I love the packaging for this, the hidden compartment. You know what? I think I'm going to declutter this out of my collection, but some of these really older ones, if the only option, like nobody wants them and the only option is to toss them, I'm just going to put them in a keepsake box for like really old things that I can look back on. And this is going to go in there for sure because it's definitely old, but it's a great keepsake. But I just don't feel like I need to have it in my collection for any reason to like compare or whatever. So decluttering it out of my collection, but not tossing it, not throwing it away. Let's see, Juicy Boost. Keeping this for comparison purposes. This was a dud for me for sure when it came to Colored Rain, but it's a pretty color story. It's definitely like one of those infamous palettes, so holding on to it for comparison purposes. All right, here's more Lorac palettes. Let's talk about it. Lorac 4. Wow, I'm really not into that anymore. This is the Lorac 3. I could have these out of order, I suppose, but I think this is the 2, and then this is the OG. Can't even, like, there's room. Look at that. All of them. So not what I'm into anymore. But I remember when I got these, I was like, so into them, so all about them. But I've literally never looked at them since. So I feel like I can declutter these, all of these, without really missing them at all or needing them for comparison purposes. Even though I'm like, kind of want to keep it for just quality-wise. But I mean, I already know I love Lorac quality. They have a great eyeshadow formula when it comes to the mattes. The shimmers I'd probably find very like subdued and kind of almost like a satin at this point, just because they're so subtle, but such great pigment. Can't fault there. So quality wise, I know they got a great quality, but just color story wise, not really my vibe. So I'm gonna do it. All 4 of these going to declutter. Look at me go. This is the Lorac, what is this called? Empowered palette. I feel like, do I need this for comparison purposes? I'm going to hold on to it for that reason alone. All right, let me push all this together. I feel like I'm actually making progress. This is all we got left, y'all. Almost there. This is the Whirly palette from P. Louise. Keeping it because it's a palette that I did enjoy. It's got a great color story, great for comparison purposes. And yeah, definitely holding on to it. Poison Ivy palette from Milan Row. This is a collab with Doodles by the Bunny. Great palette to have for comparison purposes. It was my intro to the brand. I was super impressed. And it's a collab palette, so gonna hold on to it. This is from Mellow Cosmetics. I kept it for the longest time because it's the only palette I have from Mellow Cosmetics, but I'm just not into this color story anymore. I feel like I haven't heard from Mellow in forever, so I feel like I can get rid of this without missing it too much, so decluttering. Juvia's Place, the Zulu palette, a nice palette to have, great color story, very unique, keeping. Another, this is the Magic Mini. This one was this was the first palette I had from Juvia's Place that I bought. I remember just thinking it was so very colorful, and now it's like a neutral colorful palette, so I'm gonna hold on to it. It's a great little like intro to color, I think. And then last up, I think for Juvia's Place, is the Masquerade by Juvia's Place. Oh no, maybe it was this palette that was the first one I had. I honestly can't remember anymore. One of these I got from a subscriber, and one of these I bought as my first palette. Literally can't remember now. Because I thought the green, I remember wearing it for a video. But regardless, I'm going to keep them because they're both kind of like those neutral but still colorful. So I'm going to keep them for now. What is this? This is the Wahala palette, the OG Wahala. They came out with a Wahala 2 not too long ago, but I remember trying this one out. It was the first time I think I tried a multi-chrome. I want to say there was like 1, I think 2 in here. If I remember right, maybe 3. Anyway, should I hold on to it? You know what? I'm going to hold on to it for a little bit. We'll hold on to it. Juvia's Place, the Berries palette, holding on to it for a good monochromatic type of berry palette to compare to. All right, this is the Neutral Wonder palette from DD Signature that is no longer in business, so I really did like the shimmers in here. They were something special. So, so pretty, but you know what? I'm going to hold on to it because the shimmers were very pretty, especially since the brand isn't in business anymore. If there was a neutral palette that I got, or I don't know, a palette that had some neutral shimmers in it that someone asked how they compare it to DD Signatures, I'd want to have this to compare, so holding on to it. Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette. I remember getting this after the Safari Rain just because everyone raved about this, and I was just kind of like, because the color story just isn't for me. I've kept it this long because it's Colored Rain. Everyone loved it, and the palette sleeve I think is super pretty. And that's literally the only reason, but I feel like I never really need it for comparison purposes. I'm not into the color stories, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to get rid of it. Decluttering. She Glam Artistry palette. This is one palette I actually kept from them. Do I need it for comparison purposes? Some of these shadows aren't bad. Other ones just are kind of like, okay. I feel like for the most part, these shadows weren't really that bad. I mean, they showed up pretty nicely. There were some that were stronger than others. But do I need this? I feel like I don't. But it's the only palette I have from She Glam, so I'm going to hold on to it for a little longer. Give Me Glow Vivid Rose, a palette I'm keeping for comparison purposes and because I love Give Me Glow as a brand. But it's a pink purple palette. Not usually my go-to, but good to have in your collection. And like I said, good to have for comparison purposes. Y'all sick of hearing me say comparison purposes? I'm sure at this point y'all are. Stilazi Spellbound palette. This kind of reminds me of the Genesis palette in a little bit, but I like the Genesis palette more. I've kept this for so long for that reason, just for, to kind of revert back to. But I don't know. I feel like I can get rid of it. I haven't heard anything about Stilazi in so very long. I hope they're doing okay and like still in business. Literally, I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and declutter this. This is from Shaki Cosmetics. That's who it's from. This is Shaki Cosmetics. I remember enjoying this palette more than I thought because there aren't a whole lot of mattes, but the shimmers are nice. Color story wise, I don't know. I'm not super into it. Definitely wish there weren't so many shimmers and had more like depth and something different when it came to the mattes. So I feel like it's just a palette I'm not going to reach for often. Will I need this for comparison purposes though? I really don't know. I feel like I could get rid of it and not really miss it. You know, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to declutter it. This is Netty Bird Vitamin C palette. I honestly don't know why I kept this. This was just the okay one, but it was the better of the two. I tried the orange and the green. But I've never really needed to reach for it and never really think to whenever I'm thinking of orange palettes. So I feel like even if I kept it for comparison purposes, I'd never remember to reach for it. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. Last up, I think this is the last one. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, y'all. I think this is the last one. This is the Jungle Lights palette by Flower Beauty. Not going anywhere. It's an all shimmer palette. I know I rarely use them, but great for comparison purposes. And I just recently had to use this to compare to the Adept and Heather Austin palette. So holding on to it, not decluttering. All right, I feel like it's going to be exhausting to count, but I feel like that's the most satisfying part of watching a declutter. So let's count the palettes that I'm keeping. My voice is already tired, but let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. 138 palettes that I'm keeping. Not including the ones I'm trying, not including my to-try pile. That's all the ones I'm keeping. Now let me push these back aside and let's count the ones I'm decluttering. All right, finally got it cleared. Let's start counting my declutters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. 53 palettes that I'm getting rid of. Not anywhere near half, but that's still a lot for me. I feel like that is not a bad number. These are all going out of my collection, and I am okay with that. If you aren't aware, with all of my declutters, I always put them aside in a box for like weeks before I get to them. Not really on purpose, that's just how my life ends up. And then by the time I get around to actually going through and either, you know, finding a new home for it, putting it on my Mercari if I bought it, Poshmark or Mercari if I bought it, you know, giving it to family members, donating, etc., or throwing away if they're too old. I can kind of go back over it because it's been a while. I can make sure I didn't have any regrets. Anyway, all that to say, 50 palettes out of my collection. That is the end of this palette declutter. I know it's a long video, but we did it, y'all. I'm tired. I'm going to bed now. It's very late at night for me, but yeah. All right, there you have it. As always, I can't wait to hear what you guys think. I think I did a pretty darn good job getting rid of these palettes that I really wasn't interested and just had no desire to have in my collection anymore. But as always, let me know your thoughts down below. I should have said this in the beginning, but I don't start these declutters or do these videos to try to be like super cutthroat, get rid of half, get rid of the majority or anything. I just try to do these declutters to get rid of what I no longer want to own. So that was the purpose of this video. And since I was moving into a new place, I really wanted to just go through all my palettes since they weren't all organized and set up behind me. Wanted to go through them before I put them up. So yes, that is going to be today's video. Thank you guys so very much for watching. As always, I'm over on Instagram. I'm LadyKatie92 over there if you want to follow me. I share reels, up close eye pictures, all that sort of thing. And with that said, that'll do it for me, and I'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye guys.